everybody. I didn't appreciate what Fiona had said to me, can you give me a biography? I was thinking, well, no, typical civil servant, we'll just give the job title. We didn't realise it was so that people could introduce. So, hello, I'm Kirsty, I work in the Scottish Government Public Appointments team, and our focus in the Public Appointments team is about bringing diversity into the boardrooms of Scotland. That's the focus of quite a lot of people in Scottish Government and outside Scottish Government. But for us in our team, we have more practical levers to force that pace of change. So, context for our work. As you'll be aware, First Minister has a really profound personal commitment to this. In her first programme for government in November 2014, she launched what is now known as the Partnership for Change, which is about pursuing 50-50 by 2020. So organisations across public, private and third sector can sign up and they make a commitment to try to deliver a gender balanced board by 2020. There's currently 180 signatories to the Partnership for Change. First Minister herself, obviously, delivered some very practical change. She appointed a gender balanced cabinet, only the third worldwide gender balanced cabinet. Short pop quiz to start. She got quite a lot of correspondence about how did she know that Ms Hislop or Ms Constance was fit to be sitting around her cabinet table. Would anybody like to guess how many letters she received about any of the male members of her cabinet being fit to sit around the table? Correct. Nobody wrote in to ask how did she know that they were fit to be there. So we do clearly still have quite a long way to go. Our part of what the Scottish Government made real around the Partnership for Change is specifically about ministerial regulated public appointments. We're charged with diversifying those not just in terms of gender, but more broadly, because we own one of the equality outcomes for the Scottish Government, which is reportable on 2017. To diversify ministerial public appointments so they better reflect the people of Scotland. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how we've started going about that and some of the things that we've tried, and then have a little handout here for you that talks you through the new way that we put together role and person specifications that's about sort of practically delivering on these principles. So we have a focus on succession planning, working with boards themselves to think about who they're going to need in the coming years, about tying the plans for their boards to their corporate plans so that they have the correct skills in the boardroom to be able to work with the exec. We do a lot of outreach. We do things like today, we deliver a programme of partnership with Change in the Chemistry that's a quarterly series of events. We work with a lot of different organisations, umbrella groups, around raising awareness of public appointments as a way that you might want to contribute to public life in Scotland. We take what we're now called very sort of social media friendly, the hashtag Team Scotland approach. That these are about stepping up into national leadership roles, and it's about using your skills to the benefit of the whole country. But you will also have then a personal benefit from doing that. And on the practical side, we take new and different creative approaches to the recruitment rounds themselves when we run them. There are 73 boards for whom we do the public appointments. There are also then a number of individual appointments that we do. It's a cohort of around 630 people, roughly, who are ministerial public appointees. Happily for us, we know that what we're trying is working. In 2015, 41% of applicants were women, but 54% of the people we appointed were women. So that's an increase of 10 and 15 percentage points respectively from 2012, and it was also 7% up in a single year in terms of people who are being appointed. Now, what that tells us is it's not about women not being capable or having the skills to get through that process. Actually, proportionately more likely to be successful once you come into the process. It is again about encouraging women to actually take the first step and put themselves forward to consider a non-executive position. So some of the practical things that we've done. Creative Scotland, who were the first board to announce that they were gender balanced after the Partnership for Change launch, they needed board members, and we went to talk to Miss Hislop about what her vision was for that board at that point in time. And she said that what she wanted Creative Scotland to be doing was advocating for the Scottish arts internationally. She wanted people who were passionate about Scottish arts and could go out there and sort of represent. So we captured that in the person specification, made it a priority criteria. So it didn't matter if you had 20 years board experience or experience of audit and risk and finance. If you couldn't evidence that you had a passion for Scottish arts, then you couldn't get through to the next stage of the process. What we find when we do things like that with these different priority criteria is that it makes it very easy for us to then go looking in new and different pools for people. So we know that previously the sort of people who've applied to go onto boards probably come from a fairly traditional cohort. By describing merit differently at the start of the process and for looking for different types of evidence, we can then go out to different groups of people who we know have those skills and bring them into the process. So, you yourselves, why should you seek the board position? Now, aware, particularly from the discussion we just had for the last group, you're a slightly different audience probably for me, less so for Tanya, because usually we are talking to people who are not necessarily employed in the public sector just now. So I'm just going to pause what I would usually say and go dive straight into the issue about conflict of interest. So very, very rarely are the cases where there's an unmanageable conflict if you are working still in the public sector. The one that springs to mind for me is if you're a children's panel member, you can't apply to be on the board of the Scottish Children's Reporter Administration. But there are very few automatic strikeouts. Our expectation in the process is it's about you managing any potential conflict of interest. The first thing that you would do if you saw a vacancy that you quite like the look of is download the applicant information pack from our website. That information pack would give you a contact, usually for the existing chair of that body, and we would encourage that you just lift the phone and talk to the chair about your personal circumstances and what the chair's view would be on any potential conflict of interest there. You'd be asked about it if you got through to the sort of interview stages of the process, and again, it's about you yourself reflecting on, will there be certain items on papers that I will have to step out of the room, and that's absolutely fine. Most conflicts are absolutely manageable. Very few and far between that would automatically remove you from the process. The other question that we got in the first session, understandably, is around the time commitment. Public appointments vary greatly in terms of the time commitment you'd be asked for. As Tanya mentioned earlier, 20 days Scottish Canals. Some of the NHS territorial boards have got an ask of 2 days a week. So they are significant commitments, some of them. But it's important to understand, and I'm taking this away as an action for our application information packs in future, that that's not days that you have to be attending a meeting. So a lot of it is around the preparation time and your reading and reflection.
So Scottish Canals has 8 board meetings and then our committees, so 4 committee meetings.
So that I've already really helpfully picked that up from the first group. That's something that we can get even better at actually saying to you, this is the physical number of days that you might need away from your paid post in order to be in that boardroom. But yeah, so those are the sort of the 2 big things, but you'll see that up front in the applicant information. The other thing that will be in the applicant information pack, okay, so pass those down, is the role and person spec. So the way that we are writing these now we have a core skills framework that we go out and use with every board chair and panel chair that we work with. And we talk to them about things like, when you say senior, what do you mean? And we talk to them about these 3 levels: core, enhanced and adept. Historically, people have fallen into assuming that you always look for everything right up at the top level, and we are encouraging them to not think about it like that. If you have a board, say, of a dozen people, because boards in the public sector do tend to be on the larger end of the scale, then there's capacity in that boardroom to take people who might have, for example, a really high level of skill in terms of community engagement, but who've never been on a board before. So they might have core skills in terms of governance, that they understand the essential the concepts of governance, and they have good personal effectiveness, they're able to ask challenging questions, but they don't actually have time-served experience. Our argument to the people designing the specs would be, is that really what you need? Because if you need somebody who has cyber experience, or who has well-developed digital skills, then you have to find the balance between the specialisms that you need and the generic board skills. And on a board of 10 to 12 people, you have capacity to support someone coming into a first position and allowing them to develop those skills. The other thing that we do, that you'll see in the example I've given you here, is that we use the priority criteria to weight, and again, it's about making sure that we're bringing in exactly what the board needs at that point in time. You will never see 2 of these the same now coming out from the Scottish Government. They're done from blank sheets of paper every single time, which means for us internally, it's a lot more work up front, where we have to be very charming with very senior people to get them to give us time enough to write really excellent person specs. But what we're getting through that is we are getting new and different people. We appointed a 21-year-old woman recently to one of the NHS health boards. We're getting younger people, getting a lot of women and people from a variety of different backgrounds across private, public and third sector. So, is this for you? Obviously I'm going to say yes. I have significant bias in this issue. There are issues, I'm sure there will be people around here thinking, but the time commitment and conflicts of interest. But I would just really encourage you to think about not just the contribution that you can make to a different bit of the public sector by considering one of these roles, but the potential for your personal and professional development back in your paid post that you would get by sitting on another board, meeting new people, building new networks, developing new skills around those tables, and being able to take that sort of that broader